Well, hello there rail stuff folk. Been a bit of a while since the last video, lots been going on, but really pleased to be back and bringing you some updates. Now, what you may notice right here is what we like to call a blank canvas. Don't worry, I haven't forgotten about the shed project. In fact, let me show you. Give me 2 seconds. Here comes the shed. So there is the shed project as it is right now. So it's moved on a bit. Layers of static grass on there. We've got a fence on there now, which this kept falling over because the Nightwing fences are great, but they don't have a very long bit that sticks down into the ground. So you have to find the right way to glue them, which in the end was, believe it or not, a bit of No More Nails has held that in place very nicely. The shed itself has had its first coat of paint. It's had a roof covering on it as well, but there is still work to be done on it. You may also notice that there's a logo on the front here in non-standard paint, and that is one that I've had a go at airbrushing myself. It's not perfect, but it's interesting, and it is actually going to get some rail stuff logos on the side here, so it'll be a nice talking point at shows and things like that. I'll have that with me, but that's making some nice progress in the background as and when I get the chance. But as you see, we have a blank canvas here, and really I originally started off wanting to do a project in preparation for the coronation, but that's how far behind I am with things at the moment. So instead we find this blank canvas now needing something else. So I want to create another diorama, this time probably around some kind of heritage line shed, or at least a very old-fashioned loco shed. So I've got a couple of options. First one is, here's one I built earlier. This is a Nightwing kit, very easy to put together. So that one literally comes in 1, 2, 3, 4 parts, well 5, 6 if you include the 2 doors. Clicks together and you use a bit of glue and together it goes. It's quite nice. It's got a nice brickwork in it. It's a nice size and shape. I quite like it, but at the same time I'm thinking maybe I have something a little bit more detailed. So this is where my friend Jonathan from JS Models has come up trumps. So what we have in here is the beautifully named JSM 40367S small industrial shed with tank stone 00 gauge 4mm scale model kit, otherwise known as, it's a shed. But JS Models do some lovely laser cut products, and I bump into Jonathan at shows all over the place, and he said, well, why don't you have a go at building one of these and see what you think. So it'll be interesting to see how it compares to the Nightwing kit, and essentially that's what this video is going to be, is comparing laser cut kits with plastic kits. Plastic kits like the Nightwing and the Dapol have been around for a long time. So what about the relatively new kid on the block, the laser cut kits? Well, let's first of all just take a quick look inside the pack before I get on with building it. First of all, it is a very detailed set of instructions by the looks of it. There's a lot of information there. We'll come back to that in just a moment. Very neatly packed in here. I have to say it's going to be very good for shipping for Jonathan, because this size package classes as a large letter with Royal Mail. So good work, Jonathan. That will save some pennies on the old shipping costs. So now I just want to, it's very neatly wrapped as well. It's not going to be very neatly unwrapped though, I'm afraid, because neat is not my middle name. And then actually, when we take it out of the bubble wrap, it's actually been beautifully shrink wrapped as well, so it holds it all together really nicely. So good job by the team at JS for that. Has that beautiful laser cut wood smell. I'm probably not supposed to enjoy that smell, but I do. So let's peel the shrink wrap off and see what we've got here. You can already tell it's going to be a nice sturdy kit. Something quite satisfying about peeling shrink wrap. I don't know why, but there is. Right, so that's the shrink wrap off. What have we got? So this appears to be, so it's got a tank on the back of it as well, so there appears to be some doors here, or maybe maybe that side would be better to understand it. In fact, it tells you, look, it's labelled on there: smoke hood tops, chimney covers, and then on this one here we've got sprue C. That's sprue C, not sprucey. And we've got a couple more here as well. So most of these I think will just push out. Yeah, you can see that straight away. They just push out very nicely. And then there's one more there. So there's the main brickwork for the outside. Looks very nice. Not a huge amount of relief though. That's the only thing that always worries me about these laser cut kits, is can you get the detail when painting into the mortar areas and things like that. There is one other piece here which is sprue E, some ridge pieces there. So there's all of that, and then this here we've got some clear plastic material, so I assume that's for glazing. And then this is slates. Okay, so it says that on there. I don't know as if you can see that there, but that is a set of slates. And then these are the instructions: colour, pictures, step by step. Jonathan, you impressed me so far. So this all looks very, very good to me. So I think what I'm going to need to do is give this a build, and then really all we can do is then compare and contrast. I wonder what will be best. So essentially that is the main structure done, and I have to say it was relatively easy to put together. Obviously there's more to be done, it's certainly not finished, but in terms of the main structure it's kind of there. One of the things I learned very quickly was to use a little file to sand down the pieces when you first take them off the sprue. I'm sure many of you would have been shouting at me to do that anyway. I learnt the long way about doing that. Interesting is there's a couple of things like in the instructions. By the way, the instructions are very, very good. Well done, Jonathan. They are superb. One of the things is it has an optional step of removing all of the windows first, and I was thinking, well, why would you do that? But now we're at this stage, it becomes clear, because the next step is to fit the glass to the windows. They provide the clear plastic sheeting to do that, but it suggests obviously painting them first. So that's probably what I'm going to do next, is paint up the window frames and then add on the glazing. Because then after that you move on to the guttering, which is nice, and then the roof slates, doors, chimney covers, things like that, and then eventually you get on to actually building the water tank that goes onto the back section here. But you can see it's a really nicely detailed kit. It's probably not been perfectly built by myself, but I don't think it's too bad for a first attempt one of these kits. So let's start painting up the windows and see how we get on. So that's all the windows painted on both sides, this kind of nice deep foresty green. So they're done. I'm not sure I needed the primer in the end, because the second side I did, I forgot to primer them and it went on just as well, I think. So maybe with the laser cut stuff I don't need to primer it, and maybe that's more for plastic and things like that. But these have worked out okay. I think I need to do some work on unclogging my my airbrush a little bit. It's a little bit spluttery in places, but it's good to have those windows done. And looking at the instructions, the next thing I really need to do is actually start tackling the painting of the main unit itself. But I think I'll make a start on that, but also now we've kind of got a general understanding of the size, I'll be able to put this on the base that we were looking at earlier on, and compare size with the plastic Nightwing one and decide which one makes more sense. So on to painting the actual structure itself. Now, I don't actually at this moment in time have any sort of brick coloured paint that is specifically designed for this task, but I've got similar. So actually I've got some MIG acrylic colour. This one here is dark rust, which is quite similar to a kind of brick colour, and I'll probably add a little bit of like dark earth acrylic colour in there as well, something like that. So I'm just going to put a few drops of that into the airbrush, and then I think, yeah, dark earth, just to give it a slightly more browny colour as well. So a little bit of that in there. We're going to need some thinners. About 50-50 mix. Where's my stirring stick gone? What have I done with Mr. Oh, there it is. So I'll now give it a little bit of a mix up. And the thing is, I want this paint to go on quite thin, because I want to try and retain the relief of the brick markings. But from this point on, I can be fairly, I don't have to be too accurate with where I'm painting, because the roof is going to be covered in slates, so that I don't have to worry about, and obviously the windows aren't in, they're still all stacked up over here, so I don't have to worry about any overspray on that. But let's fire up the airbrush and get this bit painted as well. So with that first coat dry, you can see we've got a base colour to work with, which I think is actually about right. But obviously one of the things that you get with brickwork is you get a lot of variation, and you don't just get a single colour for all bricks. There's loads of different ways that you can then make this work, make it look different. But I'm going to try something a bit different. So one of the things, for anyone who's watched any videos on here before, you'll know, is that I like to just try stuff out. And sometimes I've tried stuff out on episodes and they just haven't worked. That's fine, we discover that together. Sometimes they do work, but what I'm going to do this time is I've taken some paint here, which is some MIG Ammo yellow grey, and with a brush I'm going to paint some random bricks on here, and then I'm going to go over it in the same brick colour that I've already used, so that they're more subtle and in the background, and hopefully that'll work. If it doesn't, hey, we get the airbrush out and we paint out over it again. It's no big issue. The only thing is my paintbrushing skills are not all that great, but with this stuff you don't have to be like super accurate, because again we're going to be covering it up in a bit, but also bricks are quite rough, so the colours are not necessarily just about different coloured bricks, they can just be about how the different bricks have weathered over time. So I'm going to try and be random, but I'm also not going to do too many. Sometimes with this you can easily go over the top. What you want is quite a fine tip brush, and you don't want to really go over the line too much like I just did there. But it's not a disaster. Having said that, I've got a couple of straggly bits on my paintbrush which really doesn't help, but you really don't want much paint on your brush at all. So next step is going to be glazing. So I'm going to need their glazing sheet that they've provided. I'm going to need my windows, all of them, and I'm going to need a knife, and I treated myself to a new knife the other day, so I picked up one of the Swan Morton ones, available at rail-stuff.com, of course. It's a superb little knife, so should make this nice and easy. Obviously, if you're under the age of 18, please make sure that you have help from an adult when working with knives. So what I'm going to do is just lay the window down on the glazing, and then just gently cut around it with my super sharp knife. And bend that out of there. And of course, to add that on, we're going to lay it over the top here, which will then be around the back. But always make sure that it's nice and clean before it goes into the frame area. And then what I would recommend is using some glue and glaze rather than a standard glue. Glue and glaze will allow you to fix glazing in place without it then leaving any residue marks. It's got a very fine tip applicator as well, and you really don't want very much of this at all. I can see it coming through the nib now, just a very tiny amount. You do want some on the tops and bottoms as well. I've managed to get some glue on the glazing, which is not ideal. Press that down on there, and then we'll be waiting for that to dry. When it does, I'll give a little trim with the knife around the edges just to neaten up. But yeah, definitely use glue and glaze or similar to make sure that you don't get any nasty residue on your glazing. With that, I'm now going to go and cut some more out and finish off the rest of the glazing. Now I'm making some real progress. So windows have gone in. I'm really pleased with those. They look really nice. They fit beautifully. It was nice to have them painted first. This is a really well thought out kit, I have to admit. It's not as easy as just pulling a Nightwing one out and going click click done, but it's quite satisfying at the same time. So the next step is guttering. So I've pressed these out, and I don't know if you can see, but there is actually a very small groove in them. That means these are the gutters. What I haven't quite worked out is whether to paint them first. I think I'm going to have to. But then the question became black or green to match the windows, and I think I'm going to go green. But I think these are probably a little bit too delicate for, or a little bit too small, I should say, for airbrushing. I'm not going to go and fill the airbrush up just for painting these three little bits here. So I'm probably going to give them a quick brush paint before letting them dry and then sticking them on. So the next part, I think on the face of it looks really fiddly, but it's actually quite clever. It's the roof slates. So you've got this kind of printed thin card with roof slates. You have to take your scalpel and just cut 3 tags off there, and they come in numbered order, 1 through to 16 I think it is. So there we go, there's already done number 1, this is number 2. And it's got these tiny little indentations at the top that you probably can't see very well there, that then line up to lines on the roof, and yeah, it's just it's neat and clever the way they then overlap each other, and yeah, I like it. So I'm still using the laser cut kit glue from Deluxe Materials, and I like the fact that these are then offset as well, so it gives a really nice effect. You just got to make sure to get them lined up nicely. I don't know how well you can see that there, but that's the first couple of rows of roof slates on, and I really like those. I have to say, JS Models, I'm impressed so far. Really, really impressed. Not just with the actual kit itself, but with the instructions and the way it's been thought through. Yeah, I'm impressed. So once again, line up the indentations. Line up the slates with the last row. Stick it down, and there we go. A little bit more glue to that end, maybe. Very good. I shall get on with the rest. So at this stage, loads of really nice progress. So we've got the roof finished, the guttering on, the general painting done, the glazing in. I have prepped the doors as well for them to be glued into place as soon as possible. I've got the chimney covers just setting here in their little jigs, so they'll come out of the jigs and then go on top of the chimneys here. And then I've just built this as well, which is the beautiful water tank that goes on top, made up of several pieces. You've got like a inside piece, then you've got an outside frame, and then you've got these like inner detail pieces that cut off and get glued in as well. So next job is going to be to put the lid on that, and then paint that up, and probably weather the tank quite a bit before it gets glued into place. And I'm probably going to try some MIG Ammo metal acrylic paint steel to try and give it a really metal look to it. So that's probably what I'm going to do next. And we're really getting somewhere with this, and then we can actually put it side by side with the Nightwing one and decide what's better. So with that, that is all of the work done on the lovely JS Models kit that Jonathan very kindly provided for this video. I can probably do a little bit of painting and weathering on the roof. You can still see a bit of glue marks from where I've attached the slates, but I think the slates are really nice. I finished off the water tank at the back, a little bit of rusting on there, and used some of the MIG Ammo steel effect paint, so I think that looks okay. I've still got to apply some chimney covers, so it's pretty much done. Not 100% finished, but I'm really pleased with the outcome on that. Which then sort of takes us to the question of laser cut JS Models kit or the Nightwing kit. And I have to say, whilst this is quite nice for a plastic kit, its roof is very sturdy, it's nicely detailed, I have to say I'm probably going to go with the JS Models kit for this diorama style layout. Now of course this is not a period train, and it certainly doesn't fit anything of that length, but I think it's just right for the kind of diorama that I'm going to go for here. So really the whole idea of this board will be to have an engine shed and a small amount of track work, some scenic elements around it, and really making it look like the yard at the back of a heritage railway. And of course round here I'm lucky to have plenty of inspiration to draw from. The fantastic Foxfield Railway and the superb Churnet Valley Railway are just round the corner from me, so I'm going to grab some inspiration from there and see what I can come up with. This isn't going to be a video series where I show you every step of doing this. This is just something that I'm going to do for my own entertainment, because I am a modeller at heart myself. But what I thought was really interesting was taking a look at the differences between a laser cut kit like this and the Nightwing kit. Advantages of the Nightwing kit: quick, easy, cheaper. The JS Models kit is far more engaging to build, a lot more detailed. Love the water tank at the back. There's a lot more detail, like I say, in things like the guttering. The way the slates go on is lovely. The windows are beautiful, and it's a lovely kit to put together. The instructions are superb. I don't actually sell the JS Models stuff myself, but they do come highly recommended from me. So with that, that's this video wrapped up. Thank you ever so much for watching, and we'll be back very soon with more from Rail Stuff. In the meantime, please feel free to go browse the shop at rail-stuff.com. Thanks a lot.